What's going on, everybody? Andy Bacoris here, co-founder and CEO of Carry Your Cross. Welcome to the first episode of the Carry Your Cross podcast. Today, we're going to go through something really exciting that I think I've definitely wanted to go deep into for a while, and I wrote a little bit about it on the Carry Your Cross website at carryyourcross.com, but really just the background of Carry Your Cross, the story behind it, why we started the brand, the history of it, where we are today, and really where are we going. It's been an exciting couple of years working on this project, and most people don't know, but this has just been a side project. I work on this probably 5 to 10 hours a week. It's been a passion project of mine to get a brand like this that gives back to the church and to our Lord in a way that really just allows us to have that creative expression of the faith that I think a lot of men and a lot of young people, young and old, are looking for. And so today I'll bring you back to the early days of Carry Your Cross, probably three and a half years ago, before we ever launched and when it was just an idea. And we'll walk you through step by step how it became to what it is today, and how that lays the groundwork for where we're going to head in the future. So let's start 10 years ago. 10 years ago, right now I'm 28. 10 years ago, 18 years old, graduating high school, going into college. I was a cradle Catholic growing up, but completely left the faith. I always knew in the back of my mind that God was real, and I never doubted that. I don't think I ever became an atheist, but I did have a lot of my doubts about the church, about just the faith in general, and I thought that you could kind of just do what you wanted and believe in God, and I would find my way at some point. But having to go to Mass every week, growing up in a home, in a family where that was important, really when I was younger, I just never really got the point of it at all. I never wanted to go to Mass. Frankly, looking back, I hated being there. I was bored. I felt like it was soft. I felt like it was something that not real men did. It was more of a woman's, a grandma, grandpa and grandma type game, going to Mass on Sunday. And I was so wrong, and I'd find that out sooner than later. But time went on. I went into college. I was happy to be able to be free, to be able to do what I want, and really just begin living a lifestyle that, looking back, was an extremely detrimental and lifestyle that really was destroying myself physically and spiritually. I was an athlete in high school and in college, played baseball, and even just being around like those type of guys, having a lot of guys, a lot of coaches who were role models back then that, all around good, cool guys, like they cared about us. But I never met a coach or a real role model other than my father who was looking out for us from a spiritual side. If I met a strong Christian man outside of my house, like a coach, football coach, baseball coach, who held the spiritual side of life to a high importance, to a high degree, and he helped form young men through that, I think that I would have maybe been in a different place in my late high school and college years. But that wasn't the case, and that wasn't God's plan for me. Anyway, time goes on. I continue to live just a bad lifestyle away from the church. I wasn't going to Mass. I'd probably only go to Mass with my family during Christmas or Easter time. But it was really over time as I began to feel myself get lower and lower and lower, indulging in everything that the world had to offer, but not being with God, who was truly going to give me the happiness that I needed. Now, It was during this time that I began to connect with a close friend of mine who I went to high school with, who was at another school at the time, far away from where I was. And we began to connect because he reached out to me one night. And he told me that he had read a book called Wild at Heart by John Eldridge. And it was all about masculinity and from a Christian perspective. And so he told me to read that book. We read that book together. Really, that was the spark in my life that turned me back to start to open my mind about God and who He was, and what my place in the world was as a man. I had never heard somebody speak from the book like John was about manhood and masculinity as a Christian man, and have that seem attractive and something that I wanted, something that was lighting a fire inside of me. So it was during this time that I began to reconnect with the faith that I was brought up in, and begin to see it in a different light, begin to see it as a battle, began to see it as something that I wanted. And that's when it began. That's when the battle actually started, because when you slowly begin to realize, when you slowly enter the battle where you say, God, I want to try this again. I want to begin walking with you. That's when the battle begins, because you begin to understand that now you're living a lifestyle where sin is not okay anymore. And you're beginning to recognize that. And you begin to understand and feel temptations and distractions around you, because now you've decided to say, I'm going to start walking towards the narrow path at least. And that becomes a lot harder. You start to actually think and reflect on the life that you're living. It was during this time, me and my buddy would talk with each other often, text each other throughout the week, talk about the temptations we were facing, especially as college men, just all the lust, the partying, living a lifestyle, especially as an athlete or a young guy in college, that you see like you're supposed to live a certain way. You look cool if you live a certain lifestyle. And I think everybody knows what we're talking about here. That temptation was still right in front of our eyes, but we had to begin to walk away from that. Now, it was definitely a longer process for me. I wish, looking back, I could have just walked away from that cold turkey, but I definitely didn't. And it was a longer process for me to begin to turn away and really live a lifestyle that of the few, answering that call of the few that not many young people are answering today. And so it was during this time that me and my buddy would always text each other throughout the week, and whatever it was that we were dealing with, whatever difficulties or tribulations that we were going through, we'd always text each other, carry your cross, just carry it through the week. Like, I know it's heavy, but just carry your cross. And we would always tell each other that. And those words of motivation, that the word carry, right? You're picking up, it's like a weight. It's like you're in a weight room. So much different than like the Catholicism and Christianity that I grew up with, that I felt like was so soft. It was light. But really, what I began to realize as I began to dig deeper and begin to live this lifestyle of a battle-ready Catholicism, that it was heavy. That cross was heavy, and I began to feel its weight. And there was a challenge in that, right? Like, I think every man wants a challenge deep down. Every guy wants something that seems difficult, right? You want to do virtuous, arduous things that help you to become greater, better versions of yourself. And when the two of us began to look at our faith in that way, it really began to change both of our lives. And we could see that just in our own spiritual progress and in our own growth personally, spiritually, mentally, physically. It really was just changing our entire lives, and we were happier than we have ever been, even though we were facing more temptation and more challenges and obstacles than we had ever had in the past. And so it was during that time that my buddy and I had said, we were going through this for a couple of years. This wasn't like, it was like probably 2-3 years we were, living this lifestyle, working on our faith, reading. So when I started watching a ton of YouTube videos, like Sensus Fidelum was still is one of my favorite YouTube channels. Watching great priests and talks from reading books from old saints, and beginning to dig up all of these books and videos and readings from the past that I had never come across before. No one's ever shared them with me. And I began to see that these saints, these doctors of the church, these people like St. Augustine, were all talking about this battle lifestyle, this challenge of the faith, the carrying of the cross, and how that cross everybody's faced with. Everybody's faced with those temptations, that suffering, those hard times. And that is actually what forms us. That is what Christ uses as his instrument, as he did for the salvation of souls of all mankind. But that's what he uses for us in a personal cross. And so as me and my buddy were on our journey, and as we moved forward, we knew that we had to share that in some way. And so we talked a lot about creating some sort of a brand or a community that would help us to really express this emotion, put out this expression of the faith, this hardcore mentality that so many of the saints of old days lived, and put that into something that younger people like ourselves would find attractive and say, I've never seen the faith expressed in that way. I want some of that. And so we thought, what better name to call it than Carry Your Cross? Because that was the words that we always used with each other. From there, we tried to figure out a way to send out this message. And so I have a background in design and social media marketing. And I'd always wanted to have a clothing brand. I remember as a kid, I've always loved clothing and design and streetwear fashion. And so I thought, what better way to do something like this? I knew there was a lot of Christian brands out there, not early at the time, but as I did research, there were some Christian brands on the market. But there was no one doing it in the way that I thought was needed for a lot of guys and women today. Really showing that, I wouldn't say the darkness, but the truth of it, right? Like, life is hard. Life is tough. There's a lot of challenges in life, but that's the beauty of it. And that masculine, challenging view of the faith, that battle-oriented, spiritual combat view of the faith, I thought was needed. It needs to be expressed more through media and apparel and content like this. And so what we did is we created a logo, created a website, and we just made 12, I think it was like 12 to 20 hats. And the reason why we started with hats is because I saw a lot of Christian brands, and there was just a lot of shirts like, I love Jesus type brands. And I just knew for myself, like, I wasn't going to wear that. I didn't want to wear that. I wanted a way to express my faith, but I also wanted to do it in a way that, wasn't like super in people's face, but it was also like a really slick design that I felt comfortable wearing around. And I liked the feeling of it. I liked wearing it, but it was also subtle in a way. And trying to find that balance was tough. But that's why we decided to use hats at first, because with a hat, like, you can kind of wear it in multiple places. You can wear it to the gym, you can wear it to the beach, you can wear it if you go out at night, like, and it's a hat, but it's not a shirt. We started with the hats, and right away people started liking it. It was mostly just friends and family at the beginning, but people liked the logos. They liked the design of it, and so from there, we sold out of those hats. We bought some more hats, and I think it was around that time where we said, a few months had passed by, and I think we said, why don't we try a shirt? And so we tried this shirt, and I think we took it a step further, right? So we said at first we wanted to start with just the CYC logo, which is right here on the hat. And then for the shirt, I want to have the CYC logo on the front and then create something new on the back, but something that was more modern, a design that really stood out, that people also felt like comfortable wearing. It was stylish, it was slick, but it also had a really good message and embodied the carry your cross expression. And so that's when we released our first T-shirt, and from there, along with our social media channel of putting out quotes and videos about this carry your cross lifestyle, that's when we just begin to grow an audience, and by the grace of God, more people kept coming and really liked the content they were putting out, the apparel that we were creating, and from there, it's been about 2.5 years of doing that and growing year over year, with just putting in some part-time effort on the side. So as my full-time gig, my 9 to 5, I've always worked in the tech world, building technology products. And so recently, I'm now in the place, I'm now in the situation where I'm not doing that anymore, and I'm actually beginning to look at doing Carrier Cross full time and really going all in with that, going all in with what we've created over the past couple of years. And so I've been put in the situation to have that opportunity, and I think God's really putting that on my heart and in front of me as Him saying that He wants me to do it. And I think we can talk about stories in the future of how that's happened, but it's really been a pretty clear sign to me that that's what He's been wanting me to do. And so looking back, over the past few years of working on this and putting in hours every single week to continue to grow this, God has just kept it growing with minimal input. And we're just reaching more and more people around the world. I mean, we've put shirts and T-shirts and hats on everybody from Boston, where we're from, all the way to Australia, and seeing orders come in from all over the world, and seeing people not just buy the clothing, but wear the brand and be excited about it and say, I've been looking for something like this and nothing like this has existed. We love the brand. We love the content. Like having those stories, meeting people through our social media and through our community that are all about this lifestyle and are really, pushing this view of the faith has been an incredible experience. And so we really just want to continue to push that and to go all in with it, right? And so I think, Carrier Cross has been a really amazing learning experience for me. I think for my co-founder, who's been a huge part of it, for my family, for my wife. I think it's people don't see the behind the scenes work that goes into it, but it's definitely it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but I have a lot of support behind me who believes in it and who wants to be a part of this mission and to see it grow. And so today, we've come to a place where we've grown, a decent following. There are people that are interested in what we're doing, and We just want to bring it to the next level. And so my idea about where we can go in the next steps of Carry Your Cross is to, one, always do the apparel and build this brand. I love that it's a brand. It's not just, me or somebody. It's not about me. It's about living this bold Catholic lifestyle, embracing the challenge, embracing the suffering, moving forward step by step, having your eyes on the cross every single day as you move towards heaven, living a life where, you're always trying to build that next virtue and get rid of that next vice, living a life surrounded by the sacraments, making sure that you're disciplined about that, a life of discipline, of manhood, and growing in that. And I think there's so many ways that we can express that. And so a huge focus of ours over the next year in 2022, and part of the reason why I want to start this podcast early and start doing this now, is because media is going to be a huge part of that. We're really gonna do this podcast. We're gonna do a bunch of interviews. We're gonna post a bunch of content. We're gonna make more videos. We're hoping to do some documentaries, and really connect with other creatives around the country and around the world who want to work with us in order to build those stories, and bring those expressions to life. I was watching a video today about Caravaggio, an amazing painter in Rome, and it was during that time in the Counter Reformation of the Catholic Church, where at the Council of Trent, the church came together and said that they truly believed that art was going to be a huge piece to get people back into their faith and begin to understand their faith. A lot of people back then were illiterate. They didn't know how to read and write. And so art was a huge piece of having people understand the faith and be able to connect with that. And so I think today we live in such an incredible environment where it's so much easier to be a creator today and tell stories and reach audiences that people of the past never were able to reach. And so being able to really have a focus on not just creating a podcast or not just creating, a video, but really creating beautiful pieces of content. I see a vision of Carry Your Cross as this brand grows of creating beautiful, movies and documentaries and films and experiences visually and with audio, to be able to bring people into the faith and have that understanding, have that feel that, feel the Holy Spirit through content and media online, and also be able to wear that message right on their sleeve with our clothing and any products that we want to build in the future. As someone that's built technology products for a lot of my career, I see a future there as well. And where else can we go with this? And I think listening to all of your ideas as well, and anything that you have, our audience has, of what they could see and how we could help people grow in their faith and learn about how to carry your cross. That's where we want to go. We want to take this next step this year to really create way more than we've ever created. And I think from doing that, we're going to build a bigger audience. More people are gonna hear about Carry Your Cross. More people are going to come to the faith. More people are going to revert back to their faith by the grace of God. And I think one thing I was thinking about today, I was talking with my uncle Bobby, who's been a huge help with Carry Your Cross and has helped me shoot a lot of videos. One thing we were talking about today, and when we think about the audience, who is the person that we have in mind for Carry Your Cross? And there's obviously so many. I mean, there's people from 12, 13-year-olds to 70-year-olds. But there's one person who I have in my mind a lot when I make my content. And I'm I'm from the outskirts of Boston. Lived in Boston for a while. Love the city of Boston. It's, scrappy type of culture here. We live, it's freezing cold right now. It's like probably 20 degrees outside. You just get used to that kind of rough, like scrappy lifestyle. But Boston's also a huge center of Irish Catholics. And there's so many people that I know and so many kids that I know that are Catholic, don't go to Mass anymore. Grew up going to Mass, got their first communion, got their confirmation, never went back. But it's that kid who's like that Irish Catholic kid, right? He's probably like 18 years old, good athlete. He's like on like the football or hockey team at his school. Goes to like CM. Irish Catholic, might go to Mass because he has to, like with his family or during school if he's at a Catholic school. When he goes to his Nana's, always sees her rosary, always sees the picture of Jesus, Sacred Heart picture, knows it in the back of his mind that there's a truth here, but just has not fully understood, and not just understood or grasped the truth, but has been truly like touched by the battle and the challenge that he's missing. And when he does figure that out, when he does understand that, when he hears the faith expressed in a way that connects with him as a man, as a young man looking for a challenge, looking for that battle, that it connects with him in a way that says, wait a second, I never knew that the faith was like this. Because that's what happened to me, and the more I read and the more I learned and I opened my eyes, I realized that, wow, being a Catholic, part of my French is like probably one of the most badass things that you can do. Like it's a much harder lifestyle than most people will commit themselves to, if you're doing it correctly, if you're actually living out the faith correctly, as it is intended, which a lot of people are not. And we all fall short, obviously. I'm just as big of a sinner as whoever's listening to this on the other side of your computer or your phone or your TV. But I think the difference is that you understand your sinfulness and you understand that you need a savior because you can't do it yourself. And that you're actually that broken and you actually need that much grace in order to keep moving forward. And that type of reliance on God, that understanding that when you've got the cross on you and it's heavy and you're carrying it, that it's not just you carrying it, but you look beside you and Christ is there himself. I can tell you from experience and through my close friends' experience and close men that I've been connected with, that there's no greater way to find your inner masculinity, your inner calling, that fullness of truth, than reconnecting with your faith and reconnecting with your Catholic faith, living it out boldly. It's not soft. You're just being too soft to actually take it seriously. And that's something that I've really had to look into the mirror about for a long time. I wish I could go back and change the ways that I lived, but I can't. I don't want to look back. I need to look forward, and it's obviously a part of the story. But I think like reaching those people, those men and women, especially men from my perspective of just because I know it so well, that they're looking for more. This whole like TikTok social media generation where everything's just so in your face and there's so much vanity. Like, gosh, there's so much more that you're missing out on. There's a challenge, there's a battle to fight that is so exciting, and you can not just be a part of it, but you can be it, right? You're right in it. You're called to do it. You're called to be a hero. I think looking at this generation, like we're living in a time now where this is needed. We're living in some crazy times. You look at the world around you, you look at society, what's happening. You look at the church. I mean, we're in some crazy times. We're in some challenging times. We're in a time where we have the opportunity to rise up and make incredible change. We have opportunity to stand up and to bring back that fighting tradition of the faith that our ancestors had. And to be able to really express that through Carry Your Cross, to get people motivated and psyched about that, to really deny themselves, surrender themselves to Christ. That word surrender is huge. And boldly enter the spiritual battle. That's what we're about. That's what we want to do. And so I think, to wrap it up, where are we going? We want to do big things. We really want to be that. We want to be like the Nike of the Catholic world, of the Christian world, getting people pumped up, motivated to live out their faith and to live it out boldly. And I think that's needed. I think that's especially needed in men. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. I don't know if this went too long, but hopefully you enjoyed hearing some of the story of how Carry Your Cross came to be and where we want to head to in the future. Your prayers are much appreciated. Please do pray for me and that we really just stay on the right track and we make some great stuff happen in 2022 with the world in the crazy way it is, and so many people just in anxious states, a lot of division. I think that Carry Your Cross can really get people to have a position of strength. So definitely keep us in your prayers. If you haven't checked out our clothing, if you haven't checked out our website, you head to carryyourcross.com. We just had our whole Christmas sales, so a lot of stuff is sold out right now, but we're going to be getting back t-shirts. We got our Deny Yourself flags coming back in super soon as well. So carryyourcross.com. You can check out that. And thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And we will talk to you soon.